Live from Venice Beach, California. What is happening? Happy holidays. Yogi Roth here at Y Option. Wanted to just come on live by myself here, talk about this Michigan hire. Big news. Big news is Kyle Whittingham, who we seemingly think retires. And thank you all for joining this live here at Y Option on a weekend, a holiday weekend. Hope you had a great holiday. Wanted to pop on just kind of a brief live podcast, not an emergency or anything like that. I just wanted to come and talk about Kyle Whittingham and what a big time hire I think this is at Michigan and just give my initial thoughts on it. Got a chance to go back through all of my notes and I read a couple articles that are happening online. Love always going to The Athletic, but overall, just big picture thoughts on Kyle Whittingham to Michigan. So let's just start there and also thank all of you for being right here at yoption.com. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, share it with your friends. We're going to have a couple really cool previews of the college football preview. You may have seen some of them in the past in the first round. We did a deep dive, Y-Option scouting. We launched that. Excited to relaunch elements of that here in the quarterfinal matchups coming up in a matter of days. I will be at the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy. And I think of my first one, it was Michigan SC, Kerry Colbert catching it down the seam, Mike Williams to Matt Leinart, lefty to lefty. I remember that touchdown like it was yesterday. But with that said, let's talk a little bit about Michigan right now and Kyle Whittingham. So who are you getting in Kyle Whittingham? Number one, you're getting a true CEO. I've referenced it on social media when it came out. A true CEO who understands the discipline necessary to win and win at a high level. He's done that. Look at his tenure at Utah. 21 years as the head coach at Utah. I was there for his first ever game. I was against my beloved Pitt Panthers. He was kind of the co-head coach. He and Urban Meyer. Urban on his way out to Florida. Kyle about to take the whole thing over at Utah. And it was Alex Smith, who was eventually the number one pick a few months later. And it was absolute domination. I remember going to practice, seeing the physicality around it. And then fast forward a couple years and they're in the Pac-12. And Kyle Whittingham is guiding this ship into that league. And here's the truth about Kyle Whittingham. Anytime a new coach took over a program, go back and research this, and they were asked, what do you want your team to look like? More often than not, they would say, I want it to look like Utah. I want it to be a hard out. I want it to be one of the toughest games on your schedule. When you look at it, you got to say, yep, you better bring it physically, mentally. All of the elements necessary to win a tough game, you needed them every time you played Utah. Because that's exactly who Utah was. In addition, how did people view Utah for the Michigan fans that are learning about the Utes? They viewed Utah as they evaluated players and they offered somebody that maybe you had not offered yet, maybe not even heard of or unearthed yet. They would all of a sudden say, oh, offer him immediately. I mean, this is how staffs talked about the operation that Kyle Whittingham oversaw in 21 seasons as the head coach of the Utes. And I just think that's really impressive. So identification, evaluation, and then getting the most out of the players. I mean, you can go back and look at the 4 or 5-star players. They didn't have a lot. And the ones they did get, oftentimes they didn't necessarily work out. Jalen Johnson is one of them that did. The corner for the Bears was a huge recruit, and it was kind of a pendulum shift. And all of a sudden, they started getting huge players in the secondary, big-time recruits. So they were able to get and land big-time recruits, but more often than not, it was about finding a 3-star player and developing them into an NFL player. There was a toughness, there was an edge. And we spin it to Michigan, and obviously they have had their challenges, whether it was over the last month or so with one that no one could have foreseen. But really, you look, and Biff Poggi references the interim head coach, there's been an issue over the course of the last couple of years, almost every single year. So now you bring in a true CEO. And I'll share my favorite quote that I love from Kyle Whittingham that I learned back in 2015. I got to produce a documentary series. You can look it up on YouTube. It was called The Drive. It was all about the Utah Utes. It was Oregon State at the time. And you got to uncover who this team is. You have to be in meetings, practices, personal moments. You have to really just see the ethos of what this program is about with Kyle Whittingham. And I can remember sitting down from him just like this, across the table. You're pitching the doc series to him, and you ask him about the cornerstones of his program. And he says, without flinching, around here, you're either all in or you're in the way. You're either all in or you are in the way. And it was never necessarily personal. It was just, this is how we're going to operate. And at the time, there was no transfer portal. There was no NIL. Fast forward a couple of years, and that started to percolate. And I think Kyle at the time was like, hey, if you're going to transfer out of here, then you can just hand in your playbook and we'll move on. but you watched him, much like Nick Saban, adjust radically with the times. And all of a sudden, it started to change and shift and mold. And he'd talk about that. If you can't adjust, if you can't adjust on the fly, you got no shot in this business. And they did that. And then I think what I saw that I always will hold dear to my heart is how I got to watch him navigate the loss of two players, and Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe. It was one of the things that no one could imagine as a parent or as a teammate or as a coach, where you've got to navigate the loss of two players. And it was absolutely heartbreaking in every realm. And what Kyle Whittingham did was not just allow his team to move on from it, but as he would often say, like, work through it. Work through it. And they did that. If you've ever been to Rice Cycle Stadium, the most powerful moment in that stadium, and I would argue the most powerful I've ever seen in my career, is between the third and fourth quarter when they honor these two young men, and they have ever since they passed away. They honor them in their spring game. They call it 22 Forever for Ty and Aaron. And it's just a beautiful moment. And when I saw Kyle Whittingham named the 22nd head coach of Michigan, my heart skipped a beat a little bit. I believe in, and here at Y Option and just me in general, like I'm in energy in the universe, and all of a sudden you see how this thing aligns. And in sports, it gives us these stories that you can't even imagine or predict or project. 22 Forever, 22nd head coach of Michigan. No one could have predicted Kyle Whittingham was either going to continue coaching, let alone continuing at a Michigan type program. And that's the reality. A couple other things I know Michigan fans are going to ask. If you need questions, hit me up here in the chat about Coach Witt and what Wolverine fans are going to get. I asked him often, like, how do you instill toughness? Because I think toughness is a word that gets thrown around. It gets thrown around youth sports, high school sports, college, pros, and it's really kind of hard to define, let alone how to install. And I go to my notes here, like he really references how it's a daily thing and how you have to show up in that way in terms of the resolve necessary mentally, the commitment necessary physically, and then just overall the understanding of the overall approach. And as you get to meet Kyle Whittingham, you're going to understand that there's a necessary discipline to him that you will feel. For my fellow broadcasters, you'll feel that because he'll get a workout in, all of a sudden it'll be a production meeting, and it'll be on the dot. He'll be there, and he'll be out right when the clock is at the amount of time he's allowed, right? 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is. I mean, he's just an efficient man. He's got a discipline to him. And I say that about his teams. They've always had that as well. Offensively, it'd be really interesting to see what he ends up doing, right? I know there's a lot of rumors about who's going to come and who's not. And, I don't want to get into that because I don't know any of those to be true or false. But my point is, in the Big Ten right now, you got to have an elite quarterback play. And they've got an elite quarterback prospect in Bryce Underwood, right? He had a really impressive freshman year. I think for any freshman to play in any league, let alone the Big Ten, it's a challenge. And now comes the big test of the growth after this bowl game for him. So I'm so curious to see what they do on that side of the ball because this team is talented. This is going to be one of the most talented teams that Kyle Whittingham has ever been around. And now as a true CEO, of course, is about roster retention, acquisition, all of the things necessary to allow yourself to have a shot this coming season. When I look at their schedule, Oklahoma, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan State, Penn State, UCLA at home in conference play or their big-time non-conference game. On the road, at Ohio State, at Oregon, at Rutgers, at Minnesota. My point is, Michigan fans, like, you got a real shot right now. And if you would have thought that a month ago, a couple weeks ago, we might have a real shot heading into next season, you might have said to yourself, how, right? It's hard to see past the most recent headline that was coming out about the current situation within the facility there. So I say this to Michigan fans. You are in an incredible place here with Kyle Whittingham. I did not think he was going to coach again. When the Sharon Moore stuff happened, when I heard about Kyle Whittingham no longer going to be coaching at Utah, I said to myself, this could be pretty interesting, but never really like this might be the reality. So for the administration to get to this place with a true CEO in one of the most powerful leagues in all of college football, where I think amid all the things that happen in a big time program, a blue blood program, you need a true CEO in that regard. That's been Kyle Whittingham for 21 seasons, right? He ran the defense for a little while, but then all of a sudden here came Morgan Scalley. He went true CEO, coach of special teams, and away they went as the Utah Utes. So I think you got an absolute star who I'm sure is motivated, invigorated, and inspired by the opportunity to lead a team like Michigan. I'll leave you with this, and I believe this to be true based on all the research of all the interviews I've ever done with the head coach. Best programs, the best teams, the best leaders have to do one thing. They have to identify what matters most. You have to chase what matters. So how do you do it? You do it with clarity, confidence, and discipline. Clarity around the things that matter most. It'll be the tiny little details in Michigan with Kyle Whittingham as your CEO. Those will be the things that matter most. It'll be the toughness that I referenced, but it's through daily habits. It's not through a tweet or a graphic or a video of working hard early in the morning. No, it'll be about the daily habits that he will install within the fabric of this program because they need that right now. Clarity, confident. Confident is when like it's real. Kyle's done it. Look no further than the 21 seasons at Utah. His process has proven to work, and he has one that is very detailed, very regimented, very specific, and also a blast. And the players, you're going to love it. And then finally, clarity, confidence, discipline. The best leaders have that. Best programs have that. And it's not just in penalties and penalty yards and decisions made on the field. It is all of those things. That discipline, I think, is going to be so critical in this league. So many games are one-score games in the Big Ten. It's been the thing that I've enjoyed the most in my 2 seasons calling Big Ten games, how tight they are late in the games, the little things that happen. That's exactly what Coach Witt is going to bring to your program. So congratulations, Michigan. I think you're in a much better place than the one you were in. You've got a Hall of Fame coach right now leading your program that, from all accounts, wasn't slowing down. Okay, flip it over to Utah a little bit, and I'll get into this more in our kind of post CFP podcast as well. You got Morgan Scalley, who honestly, in his eyes, was like born to lead the Utah program. So I think that, there's a lot of dialogue I've seen about, who's right, who's wrong, why did he leave, what happened. Morgan Scalley will be tremendous, I think, as a head coach. He has sat, he has learned, he's been through his own adverse moments. He is very skilled as a head coach. He's tremendously skilled at what allows Utah to win. It'll have his flavor on it. Now his biggest challenge will be assembling his staff. And that's going to be the domino effect that we'll see here over the course of the coming weeks, just based on the portal opening up in about a week. But we've got games coming up, as I referenced. I'm heading to the Rose Bowl. We got games going on right now. So thanks for taking time out of your incredible weekend to spend it here with us at Y Option. And as always, if you're looking for college football conversation, hopefully that's thoughtful, insightful, come right here. We got you. We'll cover the whole country from the lens right here on the West Coast. It's finally not raining anymore. Beautiful, 72 and sunny. So I'm going to take my kids at the beach here on the weekend. Hope wherever you are, you're having an incredible day. And thank you for subscribing right here to Y Option, also to our YouTube channel and our podcast. Share it with a friend, and we'll start to bring you a couple of the behind-the-scenes scouting reports for a couple of these big-time CFP quarterfinal matchups. All right, lots of love. Thanks for hopping on. Peace.